Okay, so get this. A medieval zombie horror film.
Wow, okay, that's different.
Right. It's called Rapture. And the idea alone is pretty evocative, don't you think? But we're not talking modern day.
No.
We're talking 1348, England. A remote monastery up in Yorkshire, apparently, is ground zero for a plague that, well, brings back the dead.
A monastery in 1348, so like right in the middle of the Black Death era, basically.
Exactly. So it's not your usual zombie flick setup. Feels like it could be something else entirely.
That collision is immediately interesting, isn't it? You've got this super structured spiritual place deliberately cut off from the world. And that's where it starts. This primal, terrifying outbreak makes you immediately think, how would people back then, steeped in faith, even process that?
Totally. And our source for this deep dive is basically the announcement article for the film. But it's got quite a bit packed in there, hinting at something, potentially really unique. Feels like more than just another zombie movie, maybe an exploration of that specific time through a horror lens.
Yeah, that could be fascinating. What else does the article say? Any hints from who's making it?
Yeah, actually, the production companies are kind of an interesting mix. You've got Elevation Pictures, they did Infinity Pool.
Oh, okay, so weird psychological stuff.
Right. Then 2AM, who did Bodies, 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 and the front room more modern horror vibes there.
Very contemporary.
And then Brook Street Pictures, who are known for The Brutalist, more of a serious period piece.
Huh. That is a mix. Infinity Pool to The Brutalist.
It covers a lot of ground, doesn't it? It suggests they might be aiming for something, I don't know, layered, not just jump scare.
Well, yeah. Elevation often digs into that psychological, maybe social commentary side.
Sure.
And Brook Street's involvement, maybe that points to really caring about the historical detail, making it feel grounded even with, revenants running around.
Good point. And the creative team is interesting, too. The director is Jordan Tannehill. He wrote and executive produced The Listeners. This is his first feature directing, apparently.
Oh, interesting. So maybe a strong focus on the story, the script.
That's what it suggests. And the director of photography, Eli Aronson, he shot Lamb.
Oh, wow. Okay. Lamb. That film had such a distinct look, very unsettling folk horror.
Exactly. That kind of visual sensibility feels perfect for a medieval monastery dealing with something unholy, maybe.
Yeah, that's a really good fit.
Yeah.
Folk horror often plays on isolation, old beliefs, that sort of creeping dread from the setting itself. Putting zombies, or you said revenants, into that kind of atmosphere could create a really unique kind of fear. Ancient feeling almost, not like your usual modern outbreak story.
That's a great way to put it. Oh, and Hanway Films is taking it to Ken to sell, so there's already some industry buzz building.
Right, they must think it's got potential. Any word on casting?
Yes. And this really grabbed my eye. 3 leads, all fan favorites from Netflix shows. Will Poulter.
Okay, yeah, Black Mirror, lots of stuff.
Kit Connor from Heartstopper.
Ah, huge. People love him.
And Manu Rios from Elite.
Wow, okay. That's a pretty powerful lineup. They bring different audiences, too.
Totally. You'll get people maybe not usually into horror tuning in for them, plus the horror crowd intrigued by the whole concept.
And Poulter and Connor worked together before, right? On Warfare.
Yeah, the article mentions that, so maybe some built-in chemistry there.
Though we don't know their roles yet.
Nope. Roles are under wraps. Adds to the mystery, I guess.
Definitely. And Rios hasn't worked with the other two before.
First time for that trio. But yeah, the secrecy is intriguing. The article does give us the basic setup, though. This is where it gets good.
Lay it on me.
So, 1348, Lansley Abbey, remote stone monastery, Yorkshire, 10 monks, strict routine, devotion, you know the picture.
Order, tranquility, isolation. Classic horror starting point.
Exactly. That contrast between the predictable, quiet life and the absolute chaos about to hit, that's got to be where the tension comes from.
Yeah, you build up that piece just to shatter it.
Yeah.
So what's the catalyst?
A messenger arrives, bringing bad news from outside, apparently. But he quickly gets sick, really sick.
Uh-oh, not just a cold, I'm guessing.
No. The article calls it a virulent plague. Starts with hemorrhagic fever. And then it transforms people into revenants.
Revenants. Not just zombies. Interesting word choice.
Yeah, it feels more folkloric, maybe? Less biological, more supernatural.
It does. Revenant implies something returned from death, often with intent. In a religious setting like a monastery, that term carries a lot of weight. Perversion of resurrection, maybe? The soul denied rest?
Could be. Maybe the film digs into that theological angle, not just virus makes monsters.
That would be cool. So the plague hits inside the monastery.
Seems like it starts there, yeah. And the place becomes a battleground. You've got terrified people from outside trying to get in, seeking refuge.
Trying to escape whatever's happening out there.
But at the same time, you've got the infected, the revenants trying to breach the walls, presumably from inside and maybe outside too eventually. It's a siege. Living, trying to get in, undead, trying to break out or break in.
Wow. So pressure from all sides. That's intense. And that's bound to cause conflict among the monks, right?
Exactly what the article highlights. A big moral split. Some monks believe they have to stick to their faith, care for the sick, even if they're changing.
Yeah, that core tenet of compassion, of tending to the afflicted.
But others are arguing for self-preservation. Protect the monastery's knowledge, its legacy, maybe just survive, lock the doors.
Oh, man. That's a brutal choice. Faith versus survival, compassion versus pragmatism. That's juicy.
It really is. It makes the stakes about more than just, not getting eaten. It's about their souls, their beliefs, their humanity.
And think about the actual Black Death happening around this time. People had no idea what was going on, how it spread, just panic, superstition, blaming minorities, brutal quarantines.
Right. So this film is tapping into that real historical terror, that feeling of helplessness against something inexplicable.
And then layering the supernatural revenant angle on top.
Yep.
Amplifying it.
Totally. And the article says this plague doesn't just kill, it exposes everything in the monks. Extreme altruism, but also ruthless betrayal.
So the real horror isn't just the monsters outside the door.
But maybe the monsters within. What people become when pushed to the absolute edge.
Yeah. The revenants are like the catalyst, the crucible, that reveals the cracks in their community and their faith, pushing them to confront who they really are.
Which leads to the big question the film seems to be asking, according to the announcement. What does it mean to be human?
Ah, the fundamental question.
In this nightmare scenario, what defines us? Compassion, protecting knowledge, or just surviving no matter what?
That's the kind of theme that can really elevate a horror film, right? Grounding that big question in this very specific, historical, religious pressure cooker. It could resonate. It feels timeless.
Definitely. Now, obviously, we have to remember this is all just from the initial announcement.
Sure, early days, lots we don't know yet.
But even just based on this, the whole idea of Rapture is pretty damn compelling, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's a smart way to maybe freshen up the zombie genre.
Yeah.
Using that historical setting not just as wallpaper, but to explore specific challenges, specific moral questions you wouldn't get in a modern story.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the essentials. We've got medieval England, 1348. A remote Yorkshire monastery becomes ground zero for an outbreak, turning people into revenants.
Right, these restless undead.
We've got a really interesting mix of production talent behind it, suggesting maybe a blend of psychological depth, historical detail, and maybe some folk horror visuals.
Plus that intriguing cast, Poulter, Connor, Rios.
And the core seems to be this intense moral fight inside the monastery walls as the monks face threats from both the living wanting in and the dead wanting. Well, who knows what they want?
Yeah, and for me, the real aha moment here is that blend itself. Taking historical drama, which can be quite formal, and smashing it together with visceral revenant horror.
It's unexpected.
Totally. And it seems like they're using that collision to ask some pretty deep questions about faith, reason, community, humanity. When everything falls apart, it feels like it has potential beyond just monks versus zombies.
Agreed. So, for you listening, if you're looking to get up to speed quickly but thoroughly, hopefully this deep dive gives you a solid picture of what Rapture is shaping up to be. Sounds like one to keep an eye on.
For sure. Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. Thinking about that specific setting, that medieval monastic order, how do you think their deep-seated faith would actually clash with the undeniable horrific reality of a revenant plague?
Like faith versus evidence right before their eyes.
Exactly. What unique challenges, what perspectives would a 14th century community bring to this kind of apocalypse that we just wouldn't see in a modern story? How different would their fight be? I don't know about you, but I am both scared and super curious to see how this all turns out.
Yeah, for sure.
It definitely makes you think about how even the most familiar characters can be twisted into something totally unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with more. All right, see ya.
See ya.